Let's talk some chess. This game features a beautiful, incredible move that you need to see at least once in your life. The game was played in 1993 in Greece. The two players are Suat Atalik with the white pieces, a Turkish Bosnian grandmaster, and Anthony Miles with the black pieces, who was actually the first Englishman to earn the title of grandmaster. So two very strong players, and Suat opens us off with d4. We have knight to f6, c4, very standard stuff, g6, preparing to fianchetto the dark squared bishop, and here knight to c3. Again, just very natural developing moves. Bishop to g7, pawn to e4, building out this very nice, strong pawn center. d6 by Miles now, fighting back a little bit, a little subtle pushback in the center here, preparing moves like e5 and c5 if they become necessary. f3 adds some support to e4, which is now very properly defended by the knight and the pawn. It's attacked only once by the knight on f6, and now Miles castles kingside and gets the king to safety. We have bishop to e3, developing a piece and adding protection to a square that's going to become quite important in a moment. And Miles confirms that it's an important square by playing e5, which again, he is able to get in because of this pawn on d6, and now you're threatening to break up the center. So here we have knight g to e2, adding yet more support to this d4 square, and knight to c6, and now there's just a lot of tension going on this very important central square, and queen to d2 doesn't add to the tension, but it gets the queen off of the back rank. e6 by Miles is played, and now rook to d1, which does add to the tension on this d4 square, and here b6 supports the c5 pawn. So just a lot of tension building up in the center. Bishop to g5 is played, now sort of removing the knight in essence from the defense of the center of the board, because the knight is now pinned to the queen. If it moves, the bishop will capture the queen. And here a6 by Miles, attacking an undefended piece, which is always a good idea. This pawn on c4 is undefended, so you have to worry about that. Before defending it, Suat plays the move which we've sort of been preparing for a while, which is d5, and now getting the d5 move in. And again, no pieces have been captured yet, so everyone's just sort of posturing for position. It's a very peaceful game so far. And here, instead of capturing back, continuing sort of the peace talks, knight to e5 is played, getting the knight out of harm's way. b3 now, supporting this c4 pawn from the attack of the bishop, and now h6, forcing this dark squared bishop to make a decision. Do you want to capture? Do you want to retreat? And here the answer is to retreat to e3. You don't want to give up a bishop for a knight, especially because this game is going to open up very soon. So now we have the first capture of the game on move 13, which is e takes on d5, followed by knight captures on d5, knight captures on d5, queen captures on d5, and now b5 by Miles, which sort of elicits this c captures on b5, bishop captures on b5 sort of combination. Miles wanted to break up this nice pawn center that Suat had. We have knight to c1. This opens up a discovered attack from the light squared bishop to the light squared bishop. So, something has to be done about this. And for now, Miles just puts his bishop on c6, attacking the queen. The queen cannot capture the bishop because the knight will capture back. So instead here, the queen just retreats to d2. It was under attack from the bishop, and now Miles plays this f5 move. And now Suat plays kind of an interesting move. He plays queen captures on d6. I'm not sure why he didn't just play that right away, but I guess after he sees Miles playing f5, opening up the king side, he decides to sort of go for it, and this starts a very aggressive phase of the game where the board really opens up and the pieces just, the pieces attack a lot, which is quite fun. So queen takes on d6. We have queen to e8 by Miles. And Suat's queen picks up another pawn on c5. So the idea here is Miles did not want to trade queens because Suat's king is still in the center of the board on e1, whereas Miles' king is relatively safe, castled kingside. So you want to keep the queens on the board, get an attack going, and sort of punish this king for not being very safe, and that's easier to do if you have your queen still alive in the ranks. So queen to e8 is played, and now queen to captures on c5, and now Suat basically has two pawns for the price of a not very safe king, and we'll see if that works out. So we have f captures on e4 is played, and now f4, instead of capturing back, just attacking this knight and forcing the knight to make a decision, and knight to d3 check is the move here. Obviously, this knight is now in a very good square, so Suat wants to get rid of it, and knight captures here on d3, and pawn captures back. And here, just a quick tangent. It looks like this is a very nice passed pawn, and it looks like you want to capture it back, maybe with the bishop. But the problem with this move is it allows Miles to take advantage of the fact that the dark squared bishop is pinned to the king, and now Miles can play rook takes on f4 with a really nice rook lift, and now adding a lot of pressure to this position. So just to show a couple moves in this line, king to d2 now breaks the pin and now threatens bishop takes on bishop takes the rook because the bishop is no longer pinned. But now bishop to f8 by Miles attacking the queen on c5. Queen has to move, and now rook to g4 attacking this pawn on g2. So rook to f1, bishop now to d5, getting this bishop in a more sort of threatening position. Rook takes, queen takes, and g3 sort of blocking the rook, and now rook to c8 attacking the queen. You can sort of see how even though Miles is down a bishop, these pieces are super, super active, and this king is super, super not safe. So, and actually, I'm sorry, he's not down a bishop. He's up the exchange. Sorry about that. So he's up material, and he has these pieces just really, very active and really attacking this king. So basically what I want to say is that it doesn't work to capture this pawn right away because you have to worry about this pin. So instead he just plays this king to f2 move, which looks a little silly because it leaves the pawn on the board and it eliminates any possibility of castling, but it's actually the correct move by the engine. So I just wanted to put that in there. So now we get rook to c8, lining up the rook with the queen. If the bishop moves, there's a discovered attack from the rook to the queen, of course. But now you get this really nice maneuver, queen to c4 with check, forking the king and the pawn. After the king moves, the queen picks up the pawn, and now this looks okay. But it's a pretty crazy board. There's rooks and bishops filling the board. This king is not very safe. There's no pawns in the center, so hard to calculate, and we're going to get an exciting ending out of it. So g5 now by Miles. Obviously this pawn is pinned on f4, so can't take back, but you want to attack to pin pieces, so that's the idea. And rook to c1 here by Suat, lining the rook up on this this open file. The issue here, well, we'll sort of see why this doesn't work. It doesn't work because it forfeits control of the d file. And you're saying, what do you mean? The queen is still on the d file, but we'll get back to that in a second. The best move here is actually playing bishop to e2. And it's a hard move to find because it forfeits the pawn on g2, which was previously being protected by the bishop on f1. But now after bishop takes, then you get rook attacking the bishop. And now rook to c3 attacking the queen, which is the rook, don't forget about this bishop. The rook is protected by that bishop. Queen to e2, and now a nice exchange sacrifice. Queen takes, and now rook takes on f4. And you can sort of just see this is not a very fun position to play. With the white pieces, the rook is checking the king. The king doesn't have a lot of squares to go to. The king has to stay in defense of the queen, which is being attacked by the black queen, but obviously the king cannot do that, so you have to give up the queen here. And after pawn takes, this is just a better position to play with the black pieces, but it's not as bad as what happened. So that's what I wanted to say. The best move in this position is actually bringing the bishop to e2, even though it looks like it just gives up a pawn, which it does. But instead, we saw this rook to c1 move, but the problem, which I mentioned before, is that this forfeits the d file. What do I mean by that? Now you get rook to d8 by Miles. The queen has to evacuate the d file, moves to e2, but now the rook controls this super important file, and there's nothing to stop it, and now the attack is in motion. We have g takes on f4, obviously attacking the bishop, and now the rook is behind this pawn, and it's on the same line as the king, and this is going to be annoying to deal with. So here we have bishop to c5, attacking the rook back. And again, just like really nice, all these bishops and rooks and just all these lines you can draw, and just a crazy, crazy open game. So very exciting to sort of watch and just let it wash over you. And now f3 is played. And this is not the best move in the position. The best move is actually queen to d7, just sort of threatening to infiltrate on the d file, maybe move to d2 and attack the queen. Here, the best move is just clogging up the d, or moving the rook to the d file, and then Miles can just trade down and eliminate a lot of pieces, and then be up a bishop at the end of it. That's the best move, and that's how the engine would play this and sort of just grind it out. But Miles plays the much cooler move, which obviously we prefer as humans, which is just sorry, which is just pushing the pawn to f3. And this obviously looks a lot cooler and is a lot more fun to analyze. So here Suat takes back with the queen. The other move here, is there another move I wanted to show? No, that's not. Takes back with the queen. Did I want to show if this captures? No, I don't think so. Yeah, if you capture with the pawn, that doesn't work at all, because then rook takes with check, and now the king obviously cannot take the rook because the bishop is protecting it, and now this position is just falling apart. Maybe the king moves here, but this looks very, very bad. There's a lot of pieces attacking it, and that's not good. So you can't really take with the pawn, because then rook captures is a huge threat. So instead, queen takes queen, which looks very reasonable. But now the natural move to play, which is f takes on g2, and this comes with check. It comes with a discovered check from the rook on the f file. So not capturing the queen back right away, but making use of this pawn and the dynamism of this position, and taking here on f2. And I think, is there another? Yeah. So if you take the queen, then you just get g4 by Suat, and now this position is closed, and it's actually okay to defend. The bishop is guarding this important diagonal, and you can defend this. So instead, just going for the attack, which is obviously what we love to see. So the king has to. Did I do this line? Let me see. Oh no, I didn't, because the king has to move here, or the rook has to be captured. It looks like you want to capture this pawn on g2, but I just forgot myself about the bishop on c6. Don't forget about the bishop on c6, protecting the pawn on g2. And if you move the king, then you just lose the queen, which is not fun. So instead, Suat plays the best move, which is bishop takes on f8. And you want to take with the bishop instead of the queen, because if you take with the queen, this does come with check, but it allows rook takes back with check, and that's just too much tempo for Miles to have. So here, bishop takes, and there's no rook takes back with check. But now, now it's looking a little bit scary, because if you just count up the material, you have a rook and two bishops versus two rooks and two bishops and a queen. So the material is way out of whack. There's a clear attack happening with the white pieces. This king is no longer safe at all. But see if you can find the move that finishes the game once and for all, takes advantage of the dynamism of the position, while I give you a couple of seconds. Okay, so this was the incredible, amazing move that I talked about at the beginning of this game, and it is a pawn move. You do want to promote this pawn. You don't want to promote the pawn to a queen. So if you promote to a queen with h1, things are going to go quite badly. You get bishop to g7. This is double check from the queen and the bishop, so you can't capture the queen with the rook because the bishop is checking the king. So after king takes bishop, queen check, and then the queen just takes the bishop, and now you're up a rook, and you have a great attack, and the game is over. So you cannot take and turn into a queen. What you can do, because that's essentially a problem of tempo. If you take with the queen, you have a lot of firepower, but you're losing the tempo because you're getting checked, and then the game is over. So you have to maintain the tempo. The only way to do that is the only good way to do that is by taking with an under promotion. So I love whenever a pawn makes it all the way to the 1st or 8th rank, and instead of turning into that queen, which we're always so eager to put on the board, you under promote to another piece. Most often it is, as it is in this case, a knight. And this is just such an awesome move. It's just such a nuanced little move. In this position, Suat resigned the game because he saw what was about to happen, which we'll talk about the lines in a second. But the key here is that you are not losing tempo. The knight is promoting with check, and Suat is forced to do something about this. And in doing so, he's going to sort of lose the material advantage and eventually lose the position. So what can you do here? The king is sort of being forced to the e file, and here the king moves to e1. The problem here is that this allows rook takes queen with another tempo, with another check. And you might be saying, why can't the king just move to g1, and now there's no rook takes with check? The problem is it's even worse. You get bishop to d3, checking the king, and now these two bishops are monsters, and after you block with the queen, this is actually just checkmate. So this leads to checkmate in just a couple of moves if the king moves to g1. So the king has to move to the e file. The best square is e1, but now you get rook takes queen with tempo, and now all you can do is block with the bishop, but this allows rook takes bishop on f8. So the rook just cleared out this queen and this bishop, and in doing so essentially equalized the material, or even has an advantage over the material. And now you do have this rook takes bishop in the position, so winning a bishop back. But now sort of the move that you had to see. This knight might seem like it's trapped on h1. It can't come to h3, but it can come to f2 because the rook is guarding the knight from the king capturing on f2. So just a really well thought out plan. And the problem here is, maybe after you move the pawn, then the knight can escape to e4, and now you're not going to capture this knight. It's going to be a real hassle to deal with, and now you're just up a piece. You're down a pawn, but you're up a piece, and the game is over. But I think it's important to notice that even after the rook captured this bishop, it's not guaranteed that you'll win. You still have to get this knight. You still have to extricate this knight and go on like a rescue mission for this knight. But that's totally fine because the rook is protecting it. So yeah, just an awesome under promotion. Again, one of my favorite things to see in chess, when you just put that piece on the board. And it's not a queen, but it works. And in this case, it was to sort of gain a tempo, and in gaining a tempo, essentially win the game. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Drop a like, drop subscribe, and we'll see you next time.